Welcome back for another video. We're going to start a series for Windows Server 2019, and we're going to create a domain controller. We're going to create file server and some 2-node SQL clusters in Server 2019. So you start off by going to the Microsoft Evaluation Center. You choose Windows Server 2019, and you download the trial using ISO. And click continue. When you do that, it'll get you to register, and then you click continue and you can download. So I've already downloaded it, so let's get started. So first thing you want to do, I'm using VMware 15.1. There is a newer version, but for my compatibility for my older VMs right now, I'm sticking with this version, and we will upgrade soon. Okay, so create a new virtual machine. We'll leave it typical. Now we can go advanced. We'll go next, choosing the compatibility mode, which is the latest. And then we're going to choose I will install the operating system later, because this here is more of a scripted install. It will do everything for you. So if you choose the disk, you can go forward, but we're going to choose I will install the operating system later. We want to choose Windows. Now again, the version of VMware Workstation I'm using, it doesn't have 2019 listed, but really 2019 is just an updated version of 2016. There's a few options, differences, but really for the most of it, we could just use 2016 and choose next. This is where we want to label it and where we want to put it. Put it on our SSD, 2020 and 2019 DC. So you can create those folders as necessary and then click next. And we will go to the UEFI, 2 processors, 1 core. You could do more if you wish, but it's just a lab. It's not thousands of users, so it's perfectly fine. We'll stick with the basic of 2 gigs. You can go 4 if you wish. And we're going to use Bridge, because it uses the hardware that I'm using on my machine here. I'm currently using an AMD Ryzen, so this is what we're going to do. Next, we'll leave the default recommended. Default recommended. Create a new disk, 60 gigabytes, and we will store it as a single disk. This gives us better performance having a single disk, because the VMDK that gets created, if you have 2 separate ones, it's going to take time to read from both depending on the type of hard drive you're using. And this is what's known as a thick disk, allocate now. So if I click this, it will make a 60 gigabyte file on that folder. Rather than doing that, I'm going to do thin disk, which means don't allocate it, just allocate it as I go. So it's going to give me a 60 gigabyte disk, but it's going to put 0 in it right now until I install, and it will grow as it needs. It gives you a little performance delay, but in a lab it's fine. And that's the disk file it's going to create, the VMDK. And there's a review, and click finish. The VM will appear. Now what we want to do is attach the ISO that you've downloaded from the Eval Center. So we want to go to CD, choose ISO, and in our downloads folder, we will choose the server eval and click OK. And now we want to power it on. Now if you prefer, you can go full screen. Now I didn't hit this fast enough, so what we want to do is we want to just give it a quick reboot and hit any key. Now I'm going to bring this back down from a full screen. So it comes up with the default startup for Windows installing. We'll leave it default. You could change the country if you wish. Click install. And we get several choices. So If you're running any specific version that you need to have, in our case, we're just going to run a lab of standard. So we're going to choose desktop because we want the GUI, the mouse. We want to have mouse ability. If you want to have a no GUI, just a command line operating system, and manage it using admin tools, you could do that as well. But for our purpose of our video, we want to include the desktop experience, and it is 64-bit. Choose the license. No, we're supposed to read it. Choose custom. There's the hard drive we want. Click next. And it should install. So because I'm running this from an SSD, it should go pretty quick. So let's go back to this evaluation center. So what you will need for this entire lab, if you want to download it ahead of time for the next videos, Server 2019 we've already got. You can also get the Windows 10 Enterprise, and that would give us a client that we're going to build in our next video. So this will set us up for that. But the videos I will include in this lab series, we're going to do Windows 10, Server 2019, SQL Server, or database server, and we're going to attempt to do SharePoint as well, a SharePoint install. And then eventually we'll do a system center as well, and then this will complete most of the things you would use servers for. We'll also do a file server and domain controller with this. So that's what this video is just to get a domain controller set up. So you can use Microsoft Evaluation Center for a lot of software. They also have a learning center, so you can learn SQL Server requirements, System Center pricing. You can learn a bunch of new things. There's a YouTube channel they have. So as you can see, there's a lot of resources available from Microsoft. So if you're doing some training for your exams, you could use plenty of the information provided here as well. You can use the Windows Virtual Labs as well. How to deploy and manage. There's all kinds of things. So there's tons of labs you can do, and a lot of software companies out there like VMware and Microsoft are doing this now. So let's click back to our VM. It's finishing up. And let's click restart. Now, because it is a VMware VM, what we want to do is we want to make sure it has the virtual hardware drivers. So the first thing we want to do is confirm the drivers are sitting there. And if they're not, which most cases they won't be, we will install the VM tools. Startup circle. There we are. And one of the first prompts you'll see with a brand new machine is asking for a password. So we'll see that shortly. And it gave itself another reboot. So now we create a password. And now we log in. So when you first set up a VM, this is pretty much it. Now I'm not going to duplicate any of the installs for the further videos. This is the first video will show the complete install. Right now the VM is getting an IP address from the network because we chose the network adapter to be from our physical. So it's getting an IP from my router. So in this case, what we want to do is give it a static IP because it will be a server. Now the only problem with that is we have to look at hardware. So let's go here to Control Panel. I like to use the small icons. Go to System and Device Manager. So right now we have base system driver. You take a look at the drivers it came with, the built-in Windows stuff, right? So what we want to do now is we want to install the VM tools. Now basically what that does is connect to CD. There you go. And it should auto start. Just click on it. There you go. So back that out and we'll watch this happen. Okay, so VM tools is going to install. So now we have a default install of Windows. And you see the drivers changed. So all the system drivers are in. Now before we restart this, let's click close. We see we're using an AMD Ryzen, 2 GB of RAM, the default name. Now before we reboot this machine, let's change this name. Let's go back to here to the dashboard. With 2019, they want you to try and use the admin center to manage. So for now, we want to just dismiss this message. And let's go to local server. And let's change the name of this machine. So this machine will be named 2019 DC. Let's go with caps and leave it in the same work group. Just it cuts down an extra reboot. So we're going to do that. And now what we want to also do is before you click on that, let's right click on the network adapter. And let's see if our network adapter is coming up. Change network adapter. Let's right click properties. Turn off IP4. Okay, now let's choose a network IP on your network. I happen to know this address is free. Okay, and now because this will become a DNS server, let's give it its own address. This is home or local. Now you could type in the same IP addresses up here, but I usually do this. And then let's add our router as our other secondary DNS. And then we click OK. And now we should have our IP. Close this. And let's go with the reboot. Okay, so now she's rebooted. Let's go here. Okay, so now we've rebooted. We have the VMware tools installed. We have an evaluation for 180 days. That's perfect for our lab. And now our time. Our time doesn't look right. See right here? So let's change our time zone. I'm in the Eastern time zone. Let's close, and there we go. So now we don't care about sound. We have an IP address. Let's confirm. So when you right click on your Windows button, go to PowerShell admin. And now you can do the command in here once it starts. Or you can type command to get to the command line outside of PowerShell and type the same command. There you go. So we know we're there, and we get ping, and it responds. So we're perfect. So let's close. Now what we want to do is we want to move on to make this a domain controller. Let's click on Add Roles. Before we do so, we need to make sure we have the Windows CD, the ISO, still connected. So let's go here, Settings, CD, and make sure that CD is still connected. So the ISO is still connected. So we have that there. We can now close this. Add roles. Next. We want role based. We want this machine. We want to choose the Active Directory domain services. Click Add Features. We also want to choose DNS, Add Features. And we don't need any other features, so we're going to click Next. And then what I usually do, if you're managing the server from somewhere else, if you're monitoring it, you could choose SNMP as well. But in this case, we'll just leave it alone, and it's fine. So we don't need anything else. I usually add to Telnet client. You don't have to use it. And in this environment, I'm going to use it so we can test some things in the future. So let's install it now. This way it's out of the way. Click Next. 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 We're just going through what we're installing. Now, before you click Install, it should just go and find it on the CD. But what if it doesn't? So what I usually do is find out what drive it's on, D. And I usually say specify alternative. And I use this path, D, and the same thing's written up there. Sources. Because the last thing you want to do is you click on install and it can't find the install files. It's going to fail. So I usually always choose specify alternate source path. And we let this install. Now I'm running everything off of an SSD, so it should be pretty quick. See here, all your tools will start installing. See, there they go. So it's almost done. At the end of this, it will put a flag up here to tell you have to reboot. Or it will also say you need to configure the next step because you've added the domain controller services. You now have to run them and install it and turn this into a domain controller. Configuration required. So we say close. Let's go to the alert. And the alert says promote this server. So let's promote it. Now what we want to do is add a new forest because we haven't got a domain or a forest. Let's name it. And make sure you make it with a .domain name. So your domain.info. So it could be a CA, a com, a local. You could even do local. If it's going to only be inside, you could do local if you wanted to. In my case, I'm going to use my domain name. Now we're running at a 2016 level, and it doesn't say 2019 because 2019 is really a 2016 newer version. Just like Windows 10 come out, Windows 10, and then they had the updates, which was 1910 or 18. I think it was 1820 or something like that. Anytime a new version or revision comes out, we're still using 2016 in reality because there's not really that many changes. So they call it 2019 just because they're using years on these releases. So the defaults are DNS and a global catalog. We will not be using a read-only. And now we need to create a restore password. Okay, and now we want to go next. And we want to it's looking for a DNS server. We don't have one yet, so we're just going to click the X, and I think it's because we've put in a DNS server for local. So we will not be able to choose create because this process will actually create a DNS server. So click next. It's going to now search for our NetBIOS name of our new domain. It should say CompuGuy. There you go. Next. And now it should show us where it's going to install them. And this is a review of what we're doing. Now, everything Microsoft does now uses PowerShell. So this is the PowerShell commands used. So if I wanted to copy them, paste them in this PowerShell, it would do everything this thing's about to do. So let's let this run the script by click next. Prerequisites is going to check and see what else we need. Now, we're not using any NT4 servers, so we're not worried about that. The delegation DNS, because the authoritative parent zoning. So because this is the forest, it's the very first thing. So we don't have anything installed yet. So let's go ahead through. It says completed, and we can go forward. So let's just go forward, ignoring those two errors. Now, depending on the speed of your hardware, this may take a few minutes. Okay, the authoritative parent doesn't have a Windows DNS server, obviously, because we're creating it now. And it's just, this is just a check just in case you're using it with an integration into an existing or not. So no actions required. So we will just keep going. Now if we want to go full screen, we can do that as well. Okay, and it's about to sign us out. Okay, it's going to reboot on us. I'll take this back down to regular screen. Close. There you go. This just had to count down. So it's installed the services, and now it's going to reboot as a domain controller. Now this is one of the easiest things to set up, I guess, at this point. We set up a server, and now we have a domain controller. Now to move confusion from this, I'm just going to rename this. This way my Lab 2020 series will include all the same naming, so this way when we go through the future videos, you'll see all the parts of the lab. So this is really video one of several videos I will upload to show you how to do this. And the intent of this video is just an educational purpose. If you don't know how to do it, now you can follow through. This is, of course, one of the common tasks that anybody who works in IT, or if you've never done it, this might help you. But anybody in IT probably would know how to do this from previous versions. It's pretty much the same going forward. Just read what's new and what's different, what the minor changes are going forward. It gets more advanced when you start making a federated domain controller and working with Azure. This is just a simple lab. That's all this is for. This takes a few minutes to boot. And while we're waiting, we'll go back to the evaluation center. Back to 2019. So they offer Essentials, they offer Hyper-V, for 2016. Hyper-V is free by itself. It's basically a, you could say it's Windows Core during the install of server. If you don't do a GUI, that's pretty much what Hyper-V looks like without a GUI. And then you manage it with another one. That's the free version Microsoft gives you to virtualize, just like VMware does with ESXi. And they go all the way down to the most supported ones, which are 2012 and 2016 and 2019. So those are the only three supported right now. 2008 just dropped off in January as end of life, end of extended support. So you should have 2012, 2016, or 2019 running at this moment. Still going. And they have, we could try, build previews, all kinds of things. So the domain controller takes a few minutes to start up after you first set it up. I have a 2016 one as well. What we could do is I'll turn that one on, and by the time it fires up, this one should be ready. And the purpose of this now is just to show you there's not really any major differences from what you'll see. Flip them back and forth to make sure they're running. And I use this evaluation center for all the VMs I create because they are just test VMs. I'm not running this in any production environment. None of them really do anything but just when I make the videos, and then they're shut off. So 2019 is still coming up. 2016 is now booted. Let's log in 2016. You'll see it looks very similar. Now this one here, I put a little wallpaper here to show you what I'm running. I'm running the same domain, compuguy.info, so we're going to have two domains named the same. So I'm going to have to turn this one off when this one finally comes up. So as you see, oh no, I created compuguy.local in our last videos. So we should be able to be fine having these two up. Let's go here. As you see, the start button's the same. Admin tools. Active Directory users, computers. I set up a special OU through my videos. File servers, SQL Server, and bridge servers, and computers, domain controllers. Let's see if the 2020 is up yet. Still booting. Okay. So yeah, so you'll see that the version of Windows and the version of domain controller operation function, its function in 2016. So really you shouldn't see much difference between this domain and this domain controller. So now let's go to the 2019. Let's log in. And always remember your password. Okay, so we're going to open up admin tools, Active Directory users and computers. And the first thing you want to do is open up your tools, go to users. First thing you want to do is create a new user. Okay. Name it whatever you want. Okay, and uncheck choose change password and click finish. Now what you want to do is you want to go to the user and you want to add the user to administrator. So you could type in administrators. You click check names, it'll confirm, or you can go through here, find, and choose the administrators. Same thing. So now I'm part of the admins group and the local users group. Let's close that down. And now what we want to do is go here, click on the cog or settings tab, and you should always go and get the latest updates. Let's see if it goes out for updates. And while I'm at it, I'm going to shut this one down because we don't need this anymore. Let's go back here. And now you see a bunch of a pile of updates available because it's a brand new machine. So it starts downloading. This is one pet peeve I have with the new version of since 2016. Microsoft changed their updates. So now they automatically install. So let's minimize that while it's doing it. We'll let it catch up and really get to the point of the video. So the point of the video is to show that we have Active Directory installed. We have Server 2019 installed. It's now a domain controller. These are all the defaults. We've created a user, an admin user. We have a domain controller right here, and that's it. So, and we're at the function, as we see, 2016. Can't go any higher because that's the only value right now. So that's it. We have now completely we have successfully installed 2019, Server 2019 in a VM, and we've updated to a domain controller, which now lets us control all the users. So that's it. That's the end of the video. Thank you very much for watching, and like, subscribe, comment below. Please comment anything you want to see me do to show you if you're stuck, if you need any assistance with anything else. I'm always glad to help do this. Again, I will include the link for the eval site in the description down below. Thank you very much for watching. See you next video.